Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Thursday, January 15th, 2026 edition of Douglas Now Live, a late night edition of Douglas Now Live, I might add. I'm Robert Preston Jr. here in the Douglas Now Live studios located on West Walker Street here in Douglas. Couple of stories I want to go over with you tonight. The first thing I want to cover a little bit of city commission and county commission news. Now, what we see here, our picture here of the warming shelter, 225 East Bryan Street, that's the Douglas Police Department. That did not come out of the city commission meeting, but it is city related. So we will, we're going to include that here, although we're going to talk about the weather in just a few minutes in a separate topic. But of course, the temperature is dropping. It is dropping rapidly outside as we speak. By the time we wrap up here in a few minutes, it will be colder than it is already. And in order to help meet the needs of the citizens here in our community, there is a warming shelter at the Douglas Police Department. Now, we've advertised this before. They do this when the weather gets cold, when it gets dangerously cold, as it will tonight and through the weekend. 225 West Bryan Street. If you are in need of shelter, if you don't have adequate heat at your home, or if you know someone or are familiar with any of our unhomed population here in Coffee County, if you can get word to them that the police department is open and will allow you to set up shop there and stay warm. It is going to get dangerously cold over the next couple of days. In city commission news, we had a rather short meeting on Monday night. In fact, there were only two items on the agenda. One was an alcoholic beverage license for Lost Trace Agave's Restaurant. I apologize for not mispelling it, but mispronouncing that. I know that I did, but that's the best that I can do. I did not take Spanish in high school or college. I should have, but I didn't. For whatever reason, I took French. And the reason that I have a history degree and not a journalism degree is because I took French instead of Spanish. So that's a story for another day. Maybe there will be an appropriate time to get into it. It's kind of interesting. But again, Lost Trace Agave's Restaurant in downtown Douglas, kind of there beside Cribs and Cradles. They were granted an alcoholic beverage license. Now, they went through a public hearing and all that. There was no one there at the meeting who spoke for or against the alcoholic beverage license. So again, another restaurant in downtown Douglas that serves alcoholic beverages if you would like to have one. The other item on the agenda Monday night were three city commissioners whose seats were up for re-election last year, and all three went back in. Two went in unopposed. One did have opposition, but even if you don't have opposition, you still take your oath of office at the beginning of your term, which your new term, of course, begins on January 1. Sometimes they do that before the January 1st meeting. Sometimes they wait until the first meeting of the year in order to do that. And that's what they did on Monday night. The three commissioners who took their oaths of office: Cindy McNeil, Ward 5, Mike Gowan, Ward 4, and Edwin Taylor, Ward 1. Commissioner Taylor was the only one of the three who had opposition. Now, what they did, this was kind of neat, and we have this on video if you'd like to go back and watch it. It was a pretty touching moment in the meeting. You can administer oaths of office in different ways. You can, particularly when it's the same officials, city commissioners, what have you, you can kind of run through and do them all, not really individually, but you can get everybody together and kind of run through it pretty quickly. Mr. Taylor, though, wanted to do something different. All right. He wanted to take his oath of office with Mayor Tony Polk individually, standing in front of the City of Douglas sign that's behind the desk where the mayor and the council members sit. And the reason he wanted to do that was because he wanted to place his hand on a Bible when he took the oath of office. Now, not just any Bible, but his late wife's Bible. Back in September, on September 8th of last year, his wife of 48 years, Bobby Jean Taylor, passed away. Commissioner Taylor took her Bible and placed his hand on it and took his oath of office on the Bible that she carried, the Bible that she read, the Bible that she studied, the Bible that he said played a significant role in their marriage, in helping them with all the trials and the ups and downs that you have in a marriage. Married for 48 years. 48 years. And he wanted to take the time. He had his family in the meeting room with him, and they took a picture together afterwards. But he wanted to take his oath of office separately and place his hand on that Bible. It was kind of a, well, there's no kind of to it. It was a very touching moment, and something that hopefully will set the tone for the spirit under which the commission, the mayor and commission, will govern and act and legislate over the coming year. But it was a really neat moment, and Commissioner Taylor, he made several remarks, but he said, this is special to me. This was her Bible, and she leaned on this Bible to guide us through the difficult times and the good times of our marriage. So it was kind of a poignant moment. It really was, and it was a special moment, and it was one that I think made an impact on everybody in the commission room. So again, warming shelter, and I presume I am going to speak on behalf of the police department here, that this warming shelter will be open through the weekend, because it's not going to get much warmer at night as we go through tomorrow night and Saturday night and on into Sunday. So if you need to get warm, go to the police department. It's not a trick. It's not a trap. It is, in fact, there to make sure that you have what you need to be comfortable during what will be a dangerously cold weekend. County Commission meeting. Now, this was a little different than the City Commission. All right, the county had a 3-page agenda for this particular meeting, and I don't have that agenda with me. I'd been carrying it in my computer bag for a few days, but I left it at home. But it was a 3-page agenda that had a pile of stuff on it. Now, the reason the county's agenda was longer than the city's is because, and it's customary at the beginning of each year that you have a long agenda, because you have some standard things, some standard resolutions, and appointments that you have to make, some standard business at the beginning of each year. The city runs on a fiscal year calendar, which is July 1 through June 30th. The county runs on a calendar year, so it's January 1 through December 31. So even though it was the first meeting of 2026 for the city, it was not necessarily the first meeting for their business year. It was the first meeting of 2026, of course, for the county last week, and it was also the first meeting of their year. So they had a lot of stuff to go over. The items that were really of note were a couple, actually 3, rezoning requests brought along the same corridor by the same individual. Carlton Dormany brought forth all 3 of those. They're all out on Highway 32 West, which again go out past JMC Tire, past the, one of our several new Dollar Generals going out that way toward Evans Mobile Home Park. That area is turning into a bit of a commercial area, but there's still a lot of houses there. And anytime you have rezoning requests for commercial property mixed in with residential properties, there can often be a clash, and that's what we saw at the meeting last week. The first request was for 23.01 acres located at 4252 Highway 32 West. That would be going from R1 residential to WLI warehouse light industrial. The intended use for that particular piece of property, if rezoned, would be a manufacturing and storage facility for cargo trailer parts and components. Now, this will be a little bit controversial because there would be some manufacturing going on. It's not just storing. It's not just warehousing and distribution. It's actually manufacturing some parts, and that doesn't go very well with residential areas. The Planning Commission recommended that the request be denied. County staff agreed, primarily because of close proximity to houses. Many of those houses, which had been along that corridor for a very long period of time. And the other thing you got to watch out about when it comes to rezoning, an intended use might not be necessarily bad. The initial use for why the property owner is bringing the rezoning request to the commission. But certain rezoning or certain zonings, they allow for more than just what the property owner is asking for. So if you rezone a piece of property, you can open it up to other unintended uses. And warehouse light industrial brings in a lot of other potential possibilities for businesses outside of what Mr. Dorminey planned to do. One of which would be an adult entertainment establishment. I did not know that until Monday. I didn't know that you could do that in Coffee County. I didn't know that you could, if you even wanted to. I did not know that was a possibility. And why that would fall under warehouse light industrial. That brings to mind several more questions, none of which anyone asked at the meeting, but it also, liquor stores, alcohol sales, an outdoor gun range, fuel and storage facilities, junkyard salvage operations, and other types of businesses that most people do not want near houses. All right. So that request was denied. And there were people who went there to the meeting and spoke out against people who live in the area. And a lot of the same folks spoke at all three of these rezoning requests. The next request was for 10 acres at 3572 Highway 32 West, and then another 10 acres at 3916 Highway 32 West, both of which would be going from R1 residential to C commercial. Again, some of the same folks who spoke out against the first rezoning request spoke out against these two as well. Now, the commissioners voted to table these rezoning requests until next month's meeting. And what they're going to do is have some meetings and have some discussions over the next month through the month of January to try to figure out if there's a way that they can get these other two rezonings done. Because again, commercial is different, of course, than warehouse light industrial. It's a lot less invasive. It's a lot less intrusive on property owners' privacy and that kind of thing. And if you've been out that way, there's a building being built out there right now. That's going to be worldwide truck parts and sales, which is TransPower. Used to be TransPower. It's changed names a couple of times, but it's now worldwide. And and that's a commercial zoning as well. So that area is going in a commercial direction, and the county's going to have to deal with these requests moving forward, particularly now that that area of road, that stretch of road has been 4-lane. What I think is going to happen, my opinion and my opinion only, you can take it for what it's worth, I think that these two commercial requests will be granted in February at the February meeting. I think they're going to try to figure out some way to make it more amenable to the property owners and much less invasive than it would be otherwise. And by that, I mean some type of buffer between the commercial property and the residential properties, whether it's fencing, shrubs, trees, vegetation, something like that, to make it a little, again, a little less intrusive. So I'm guessing that those requests are going to go through. Whereas the warehouse light industrial, of course, it's already been voted down. So I don't think they're going to revisit that one. There are a couple of other rezoning requests that the commission will consider next week, next month as well. Our picture here, this is AJ Dover's, the tall one, taking the gavel. We couldn't find a gavel at the meeting, so the gavel did not make it into the photo. But taking the gavel as county commission chairman for 2026 from Johnny Wayne Jowers. He was the commission chair last last year, and Mr. Dovers is the commission chair this year. I want to say that the late Oscar Polk was vice chair last year and was set to be chairman this year until he suddenly and tragically passed away during the summer. And the commission appointed AJ as vice chairman after Commissioner Polk's passing, and then he took the gavel, as they do at the beginning of each year. So Commissioner Dovers will be the commission chairman through 2026. He is also up for re-election this year. So there are a couple of county commission races that are up this year. Some school board races as well. We will be talking about that as the elections get a little bit closer. Weather. All right. I am certainly no weatherman, but we have some very cold weather. Well, the cold weather is here, but there could potentially be some snow coming through this weekend. Now, we have about a 90% chance of precipitation on Sunday. All right. There's a weather system that is developing here in our part of the country. It is going to develop near the northeastern Gulf of Mexico on Saturday, and then it's going to move along the southeast coast on Sunday. If it forms as weather experts are expecting it to, it could bring precipitation to our area, though that doesn't necessarily mean it will be snow. Rain, snow, some kind of mix. And of course, if you have rain, with temperatures that low, it can cause some very, very treacherous conditions. So the various computer models that they're using, what they're looking at shows a pretty serious storm developing, but there's a lot of uncertainty as we deal with hurricanes and what have you, especially when you're talking several days out. A lot of things can happen and a lot of things can change. So the storm may not develop the way that it appears right now. It could be stronger, it could be weaker. There are a lot of variables here. But a couple of cities that have been mentioned as possibilities of getting snow: Macon, Noonan, LaGrange, Thomasville, all the way up to Athens. So again, Thomasville, if that storm develops in the Gulf of Mexico, in the northern Gulf, and moves in an easterly direction, that's where you're going to get snow in Thomasville. And I would imagine if you get into Thomasville, you're going to get it in Tallahassee, Florida. You're going to get it along the Gulf Coast there. And if Macon's getting snow, Noonan, LaGrange, and Thomasville's getting snow, we're in the middle. I would think there's probably a good chance that we might get some as well. Now, I hope we don't. I do not like a lot of snow. I know we had it last year. It's fun to look at, but it really gets in the way and it really complicates things. One good thing, if in fact we do get some rather sketchy conditions with or without snow, is that, of course, there is no school on Monday due to the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday. So people will not be worried about whether or not school will take place on Monday. It will not. So no school on Monday, regardless of what the weather does. But it could get treacherous Saturday night and into Sunday. So pay attention to trusted media outlets. Again, I point people in Coffee County. I have not asked this individual permission, but I've mentioned him before. I will mention him again. Danny Hadsock is our resident weather expert for Coffee County. Follow him on Facebook if you have not. All right. His weather reports are as accurate as they can be, but they're pretty well spot on. And Danny also delivers his weather reports with discretion, and he is not out to sensationalize or make it sound like it is going to be much, much worse than it is. It's pretty matter of fact, pretty straightforward, well thought out, well researched. He's been doing this a long time. I would consider him an amateur weatherman. He would probably not even go that far, but he does a really good job. And I have several different sources of weather I look at, but when it comes down to it, and I want to know what's going to happen locally, I go to Danny's Facebook page, his personal Facebook page, and take a look at it. And he gives regular and very appropriate and surprisingly accurate weather forecasts when we are going to get into when we're facing some tough conditions. I want to thank Holland Free Methodist Church of Holland, Ohio, for our winter weather graphic. I was trying to find something to put up here. I saw this one. I liked it. And then I want to make sure I give people credit. I looked to see what it was. Holland Free Methodist Church of Holland, Ohio. Do not know anything about Holland, Ohio. Do not know anything about that church. But they put together a nice graphic. And that graphic actually, I think, came from 2019. Had been out there for a while. Governor Kemp, overseeing his 8th and final General Assembly. Oversee might not be the right word. But the legislative session began this week, and we've tried to update a little bit along, and we will continue to do that. All right. We're going to try to follow the session a little bit, and we're going to put some stuff out there semi-regularly as the headlines warrant it. We want people to know what's going on in Atlanta. We want to know how what happens in Atlanta affects us down here in South Georgia. But the governor has outlined what he would like to do in this final session. And one of the big things you're going to hear, all right, is talk about income taxes. The Senate would like to do away with income taxes by 2032. And a big proponent of that is our senator for the east side of Coffee County, Blake Tillery, who is also running for lieutenant governor. But Blake Tillery, Senator Tillery, is from Vidalia, and he's actually been here in these studios a few weeks ago, and he's really sharp. And this is something that they've been thinking about in the Senate for a long time. And you're going to hear more and more about that. But one of the things that the governor would like to do is issue a tax cut that would bring the income tax rate down to 4.99%. It's currently at about 5.19%. And he has said that before he left office, he wanted to make sure that he got the income tax rate down below 5%. So it's not a huge drop, but it is a drop nonetheless. And again, you're going to hear a lot about that this year and over the next few years from the Senate. They really want to get away with it. And I would like for them to do it if they can do it in a way that does not turn around and punish people on the back end. Because one thing you have to understand about government, it's not going to function on less money. All right. So if you see a tax cut, a tax rebate, we're doing away with income tax over here or what have you, they're going to get that money from somewhere else. Now, there are different ways that they can do it, and there's some ways that are better and more equitable and fairer than other ways. And I hope that when they do eventually cut the income tax, that what they replace it with is not worse than an income tax, which one of the things Senator Tillery likes to talk about is doing away with corporate welfare, closing some of these loopholes that big corporations get away with and trying to replace some of that money with those. That sounds really good on paper, and I know he's put pen to paper and figured this out. He's over appropriation, so he knows the numbers as well as anybody. But still, you know, there are going to be exemptions, and you're going to open up another can of worms with that. And I just hope it works out the way that they would like for it to. But I applaud any tax cut as long as what replaces that tax cut is not worse than what we had in place to begin with. The governor also wants a $2,000 one-time bonus for state employees. I believe that includes teachers as well. And then he is also going to funnel a good bit of money into local communities for infrastructure, bridges, roads, that kind of thing. For rural Georgia, he has allocated or would like to allocate $100 million to fix bridges, and then $35 million for natural gas infrastructure upgrades. And that is out of a total of about $2 billion that would go toward highway improvements, a lot of that around Metro Atlanta, and then another $250 million into areas outside of Atlanta for road projects as well. That's just a smidgen. That's the tip of the iceberg of what he would like to do. There's a lot of information out there if you would like to look at it a little bit more in more detail. Our picture here, courtesy of Ross Williams of the Georgia Recorder. Again, want to give credit for this picture to the folks who took it. The Georgia Recorder is a pretty good source of information. They cover the legislature quite a bit. We get a lot of our information, and we post a lot of stories from the Georgia Recorder on DouglasNow.com. They're a pretty good source. So, General Assembly going to be wide open. You're going to hear about affordability. That is a big buzzword at the federal level. You're also going to hear about it at the state level. Of course, you're going to hear about education, the immigration, deportation, Immigrations and Custom Enforcement issue has made its presence known in the Gold Dome as well. So you're going to hear all of those issues along with the other stuff that's going on. But one thing you need to keep in mind, we need to pay attention. This is an election year, and you have a lot of sitting legislators, Blake Tillery being one, our Lieutenant Governor, Burt Jones, who is here. That's Burt. I don't dislike Burt Jones. I wish he would be a little more upfront as he discusses his background and his experiences growing up. He likes to tout that he's from rural Georgia, and he is not. He is not from Atlanta, but he is not from rural Georgia. He is from Jackson, and Jackson is not rural Georgia. It's not Atlanta. It's not a big area, but it's not rural Georgia either. But anyway, Lieutenant Governor Jones is running for governor and has the advantage, I believe, in that race, although you never know what happens until Election Day, and a lot can take place and a lot will take place between now and November. But those are just two of a number of officials in and out of the legislature who are seeking higher office. And when you have that kind of climate in the legislature, there's not a lot that gets done. So probably what you're going to hear is a lot of talk and not quite as much action. But many of our legislators, particularly those who are not running for higher office, have said we're going to try to do our best to make sure that we do get some meaningful legislation accomplished while we are in Atlanta. So we'll see what happens. Right now, it looks like there's going to be a lot of discussion, more talk and less action. That's what happens in these election cycles, but maybe it will be a little bit differently. But if you're a state employee, $2,000 one-time bonus. All right, that sounds pretty good. But this is Governor Kemp's last legislative session. So he's got some things he would like to do with some of the money that he has socked away, and that is one of them. I tell you what, we talk about bridges, and bridges aren't you're not going to win a campaign talking about infrastructure really, and bridge revitalization. All right, but fixing bridges is a lengthy and costly process, but it is vitally important. We have bridges in Coffee County that have never been worked on in my entire life. I am in my 54th year. I'm not 54 yet, but I'm in my 54th year. Most of our bridges in Coffee County have not been touched by a piece of equipment my entire life. All right. They need some work. And it's not just Coffee County, it's communities all over the place. So, it's not something very sexy to talk about, but it is something that's needed. We'll see exactly what those final dollars are and how they flow into Coffee County. Hopefully, we will get a good chunk of, and of course, that's relative. There are 158 other counties that want the money as well, but hopefully we'll get enough to do some meaningful infrastructure improvements over the course of the next couple of years. Those are our top stories for tonight. And in keeping with our weather theme, once again, we take a look from our tower cam, looking east back over Douglas. A little bit of a different view, of course, when we're taking a look at night as opposed to looking during the day. It's clear skies, And clear skies mean cold temperatures. All right. I did not learn a lot in a geology class at the University of Georgia, but I do remember this, that during the wintertime, if you have clear skies, and this should probably be common knowledge, but I never thought about it back in 1990. I don't remember that was 1992 or 1993 that I took that class, but way back when, that when you have cold temperatures and no clouds, it is going to be a very, very cold morning, because the clouds, of course, trap the heat coming up off of the earth and keep it closer to the ground. So you will have warmer temperatures on cloudy, after cloudy nights than you will when it's clear. And you can look up there and see there's not a cloud in the sky. Going to be about 22, 23 degrees in the morning. Going to be extremely cold. Again, if you need to get warm, go to the city's warming shelter at the police department. All right, that's what it's there for. It's going to be very cold over the next couple of days. But yeah, again, you can see some of those lights through the trees. Before Helene, you would not have seen those lights. We lost a lot of trees looking back to the east. Of course, if you're familiar with where our studios are, there are no trees back here to the west. But to the east, there are. So, again, we're going to come up here and take a look at the tower cam if it snows. We're going to do that. We have not had tower cam footage of snow. We might get the opportunity this weekend. I promise you we will do that if, in fact, we do get some snow. Thank you for tuning in with us tonight. I do appreciate it. I know this is a little bit of an unusual time frame for us to be doing Douglas Now Live. But I do want to thank everybody for hanging in there with us. Those are our top headlines for the week. If there's any breaking news between now and Tuesday, we will be. If it snows, we're going to be here. We're gonna do a video, if for no other reason, to show a tower cam view of snow. That means I'm going to have to drive up here in the snow or walk, which is not that far from my house. But I did drive up here last year in the snow, and it was treacherous. But I will do it again. I will bring you a tower cam footage, a tower cam shot of snow, if in fact we do get some this weekend. Everybody stay warm. Everybody stay safe. We'll see you next time.